We would like to welcome you to the JC Fire Technologies YouTube page. What is JC Fire Technologies, you may ask? We are a YouTube channel that was started by two friends, Captain Jay Gallagher, retired, a 30-year veteran firefighter/paramedic, and Chris Edwards, a 6-year active firefighter.
This is Hose Jockeys Unite, the only episodic podcast that strives to not only educate and entertain those in emergency services, but to give an inside peek inside the fire and EMS services to the general public. We are here to leave a legacy for future generations. And now, here are your hosts, Chris Edwards and Jay Gallagher.
Instead of going all electric with their trucks, they're putting what's called an APU on their trucks. And APU, for those of you who don't know, stands for Auxiliary Power Unit. Now, what this does is, once the apparatus is on scene and has been stationary for anywhere from 2 to 2.5 minutes, this green APU will kick in, and once the computer on the motor sees that that's on, it will shut down, and it'll still run the red lights and the air conditioning or heat, whatever the climate calls for.
Right,
Now,
right.
now on the actual fire ground, they what they're doing is when there's actually a fire, the APU won't kick in. It'll the engine will constantly go, of course, for pumping operations. They didn't say whether any of the ambulances had this on their rigs, but I don't see why it couldn't be used on an
Right.
ambulance. Now
Right.
now there is a sizable investment in, up front to the tune of about $17,000, but the savings in the long run more than pays for itself. Okay, so without the APU, there, well, of course, all this falls back on the price of diesel fuel at the time. But where their um, the regular engines will burn anywhere from 3.5 to 4 gallons of fuel an hour, this APU only burns a half a gallon in an hour. Now they've got, I believe it was 50 some pieces of apparatus. These APUs are on 27 of them. Now, just in fuel cost, they have saved anywhere from 1,700 to $2,000 per year per truck that this APU's on, which is about $50,000.
Okay.
Now, this also cuts out one preventative maintenance per year per truck, and that brings the total savings up to $108,000 a year per, you know, for the whole fleet at this time, which would more than pay for, in a year's time, you know, two or three more rigs to have that don't have the APU put on it to have it installed.
Okay.
And the fire service has been, you know, arguing back and forth as far as how to handle idle emissions. Well, here you go. I mean, this, you know, after 2.5 minutes of being on scene, the APU kicks on, the main engine kicks off, unless you're, of course, pumping a fire.
Right. So now, is this a diesel engine? I'm assuming a
Yeah,
diesel generator.
yes. It's probably, I don't know. Probably, I'm going to swag it and say maybe uh, 3 foot by 3 foot, and it just, it can be mounted underneath the cab if you have a cab over engine.
Okay.
And excuse me, I've been fighting a little bit of a head cold here the past couple of weeks. Um, but yeah, this seems like this is the way to go. This is the way Charlotte's going, and it's working from the savings that they've already got. Now imagine if they get all 50 some pieces of apparatus that they've got with this. The savings is going to you know double. So, and I mean that extra savings could put you know more guys on the crew, new equipment, you
Well,
name it.
right. New SCBA's. What have you.
Hmm. And
Very cool.
and it eliminates the uh, not having to charge a truck, whatnot. I'm sorry, sir, we can't come to your house fire right now. We're charging our truck type deal.
Right. I still feel like cost is still going to be prohibitive for smaller departments, though, as far as
Well,
that goes.
true. Well, true. But if you've got a department that's um, a small rural department that's tax based, like some of the volunteer departments that I've been on, it's still feasible, but you can't do it as quickly as Charlotte's able to,
Right.
because they got already got a big budget, and I don't know if they're got to get any kind of a tax base or not either. So, but guys and gals who are on other departments, it's worth looking into.
Okay. So I'm assuming that like you said, it won't actually run a pump.
Not no. Now
Okay.
I tried to contact the guy that was interviewed on the news clip that I seen, and and ask him, to get some more particulars. But I might as well have been trying to get a hold of President Biden. It just didn't work. Um,
Gotcha.
and I'm liable to have get a phone call from him next week, and and I can talk to him. If that happens, then I'll definitely be sure to, on our next live show to update everybody on what I found out.
Or maybe you can try to get him as a guest on one of our podcasts. We could.
That would be that would be a good idea. Yeah, that would be great. Um, and he could tell us all about it. That the from the news clip that I said, or that I seen. I'm sorry. Uh, from from now till you know whenever, they said that as the technology with the APUs change, they will change. So who knows? Maybe one day they'll be pumping the truck too.
I mean, I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all,
No,
especially if if it helps save money.
absolutely. I mean, you and I have had discussions on the electric fire trucks and all like that, and we, you know, sat down with an open mind and wrote out all the pros and wrote out all the cons of it. And
We actually did a segment on a podcast, one of our podcasts about it.
yeah, and at first I threw it under the bus, you know, 'cause- and I'm one of the old timers, stuck in tradition, and really wasn't thinking outside the box on it. And I sat down and you know researched it, and wrote out the pros and cons, and the pros and cons kind of they kind of balance out after a while.
Right.
But still, when you really think about it, that main battery that runs the whole thing, when it goes out and it has to be replaced,
Right.
It's cheaper to buy another truck.
It really is, and that's just cost preventative until they can get the materials better, the technology better.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? I don't know what kind of warranties on that battery, and neither do you. I don't know how long they're supposed to last, but if they go out, then there you go.
Yeah.
Because I know regular lead acid batteries for just regular trucks. Most of the trucks take 6 batteries, and um, that's about $700 to $900 worth of batteries to replace those with the regular battery, regular
Yeah.
12-volt battery.
Yeah. And the one thing that I do like about the uh, the electric truck that they have is um, the ride height will adjust. I mean, you can put it up to, I believe it was 9 inches above the top of the tires for like if you're going through high water,
Yeah.
and it'll come all the way almost to the ground for vertically challenged firefighters, so they could have easier in and out. Um,
Right.
and the way the cab is set up, to where all the seats can rotate around and everyone can face each other, uh, so they could, do the um, use it for rehab. That face each other, talk to each other,
Right.
um, use it as a command post. I mean, it does have its pros,
Yeah. But
but
they can still have that. They can still make that same kind of design with a diesel engine truck.
yeah, but I'm again, it's that T word that comes into play every once in a while. Tradition. I'm used to hearing that big diesel roll out and hear Jake breaks every once in a while and all like that, and I'm just not used to hearing the Jetsons go by.
Right. Well, that was one of the biggest things for me that was kind of hard for me to get used to on the EMS side was when I came to the place I'm currently working now. They have gasoline powered ambulances instead of diesel. Every other place I've been has been diesel, so it's like I have to pull up to a gas pump and think twice about putting diesel in it. Because I'm so used to putting diesel in ambulances and fire trucks. It's just second nature. So
Yeah. When I first got my EMT, uh, I was volunteering with Dare County EMS, and they had the van type uh, ambulances at the time, and it was definitely tight, and sometimes you could be going down the road and working, have a patient in the back, and sometimes when they kind of get on it to get around traffic or whatever, you could get a whiff of that diesel, and they were older, ambulances, of course. Now they went um, to the box type
right,
ambulances since I moved back,
right,
and
and those
I
are
don't.
nice, but the boxes are nice. I like them, but I still, and I'm not by any means a tall person. I'm not short, but I'm tall. I'm medium build, but um, I still have to kind of crouch over when I'm in the back of the truck at
Oh
work.
yeah, the
So
those van types were, if you were, I'm tall. I'm 6'7", and I almost had to bend over double and to get in there, and trying to work a code, it made it even tighter.
well, we don't work codes in the back of the truck. We work them on scene now. That's our protocol. So if we get if we get rosks, then we throw them in the truck in high flow diesel, or in our case, high flow gasoline to the closest appropriate facility. But
Man,
if we don't get rosks, then we just work it on scene.
I got you.
So
I got you. So, but yeah, I mean, and if you stop and think about it, the APUs, that's a lot of wear and tear uh, off the main engine, off the diesel engine at a scene,
right,
even EMS calls, you know, you could be up there, be in there for 20, 30 minutes just trying to get patients stabilized enough to be able to move them.
right,
And, that takes time, and, a lot by that APU going, it takes wear and tear off of the motor.
right.
So, I mean, that's, to me, that's another um, savings in just, parts.
Well, another interesting thing that I've seen, some agencies, like for example, New Orleans EMS, they have solar panels on the top of their trucks, and that's to keep their basically keep their batteries and their electronics charged while they're parked and whatnot.
That's a
So
good idea.
that's kind of a that's kind of an interesting flip on the whole green thing without having to go completely electric
Yeah.
trucks and whatnot. So
Yeah. If I was still, if I hadn't been retired, I'd, definitely go to my equipment committee and, you know, talk to them. Hey, check this out. Look what Charlotte's doing. See how much money they're saving.
right.
Why can't we do the same thing?
I mean, long term, I think it's a great investment. I think it would save a lot of money long term. It's just are a lot of departments willing to put that money up front into it.
Yeah. Well, if if you think, you know, like you said, if you think long term, and and see the savings and the um, prevention of something going wrong with the motor even quicker, and that piece of apparatus being down for just say 2 weeks.
Right.
I mean, to me, it's worth the investment. I mean, granted, it is a chunk of change up front, but maybe if you um, spec it out on your next new piece of apparatus, let's just say.
Right.
If you spec it out on there to come already from the factory, maybe you could get it cheaper. I don't know.
Right.
I mean,
And then
you're already spending what 200,000 plus on a custom engine. You never know.
but but then you've got those departments that are just dead set against it. They're ones like you were saying, they're stuck in tradition. They're like, no, we're not even we're not wasting money on that, and it's just never going to happen.
Yeah, true. This is true. But this is just an alternative from having to go the total electric thing that you know I think was pretty good a good idea. Now I've seen these APUs on 18 wheelers,
Oh, okay.
and it keeps the batteries charged when they're shut down, and like if there's overnight at the truck stop, it keeps the climate control going and whatnot. But I never thought about putting one on a fire apparatus before, because I'm just used to seeing them on on the 18 wheelers. So so
Okay.
well, anybody listening, if you got any comments, questions, or whatever, uh, send them to us.
Yeah, we can answer your comments in the chats if you have anything. It looks like we got a few listeners, a few viewers right now. Actually, to be honest with you, that's a good thing.
Yep. Hopefully, some of my friends down on the Outer Banks or where I was at is watching
Watching
us.
tonight. Very good.
Yeah.
Now we're up to 5. Very good. Have 5 people.
Woohoo!
So next we were going to talk about the on the same lines electric vehicle fires. I just completed a an online course on electric vehicle fires and found it to be pretty interesting. Some of the things I found out. Jay, what's your experience on? I mean, I know it's new to you, but what's your take on the electric vehicle fires?
Um, when I retired out, uh, the electric vehicles were just really starting to evolve, I guess you would say.
Right,
And I've never um, had to deal with a fire in one uh, or a wreck, luckily. One of the things that always worried me about it was, on a wreck scene, and we had to cut the car. Somewhere in that car is the main wire that goes to that big battery. And the last thing you want to do is cut into that. And my big thing was, how do you kill that battery? I mean, normal gas powered cars, pop the hood or whatever's left of the hood and, cut the battery cables or pull them on, pull the cables and your problem solved. But
right,
with with the these electric cars with that that main wire going to that big battery, what do you do?
exactly. And it just comes down to knowing the anatomy of the car. They've actually got apps you can put on your phone now to look at that. Um, but I'm going to go ahead and transition the screen here, Jay, and I'm going to put it up there. And
Wow. Wow. Absolutely. That's a lot of water and a lot of time. Right. Hmm. Cool. Ever seen a Tesla with an afterburner? Yeah, really. Now these are the same type batteries on only on a larger scale that FDNY has been having so much trouble with the e-bikes setting everything on fire. Correct? All right. Well, what? Mm-hmm. Now, what keeps these the batteries that they put in the cars from lighting off like the ones on the e-bikes do? Is it because the ones on the e-bike is smaller and there's more um, concentrated heat there, or what? Right. Gotcha. Right. Hmm. That was my next question. If foam would do anything uh, to cool it quicker. Um, Now I know when FDNY has a fire with one of the e-bikes they call in hazmat, and I'm assuming just from that little bit of experience, if you have a vehicle fire, that that hazmat would need to be contacted as well. Gotcha. Gotcha. Right. Now, how much does this cut down on extinguishing time? Huh. Absolutely. Right. And how much does this setup weigh? Mm-hmm. Right. Gotcha. So no Carolina spots, guys. Now, now the young man that sent us the thing about the APU versus the diff system, he drives a tow truck. Uh, is he still on? Philip, Philip, do y'all have anything out there at your yard to quarantine something like this, if uh, well, it's not if, it's a matter of when, y'all get something like this? Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Now, with these batteries, once they've caught fire, I know some hazmat situations you're once you're finished with your turnout gear's toast. They just throw it away and you get reissued new gear. Uh,
I
does
would
it,
I would assume so. I'm guessing that I don't know 100% for sure. I'm guessing that structural gear would protect the the wear from said chemicals, but I'm pretty sure it would probably eat it up.
no.
I don't know if it requires like any kind of level A type of or level B hazmat suit because I really didn't really dig that deep into it. This was just something I did for fun the other day.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, I know some of the videos that I watch a lot of YouTube and stuff from FDNY and everything, and some of the calls that they went on with the e-bikes, uh, they're hazmat guys. They go in with the, I call them glow suits, and SCBA on the whole 9 yards, which is kind of a no-brainer. But that's why I ask if the byproducts of the burning battery would um, eat your normal structural gear up.
I would assume so, but like I said, I don't know 100% sure.
So, but it's a whole different world in firefighting. That's for sure. And
And I would say that you would treat it like a vehicle fire as well as a hazmat incident because you've got you got to contend with the off gassing and the vapors that are blowing. You got to worry about the wind direction and set up your hot zone. Any kind of evacuations that may be possible as well.
yeah, um, some of the things that I see nowadays on that you guys that are on shift now, um, kind of makes me glad I'm out of it.
I'll bet it does.
So I mean, you used to be, roll up on a car fire, pull your pre-connect, you know, 45 minutes later you back at the barn. Nowadays, if you roll up on one with a, you know, like a Tesla or something like that, you're looking at 5 hours of throwing water on it, and I'm good. That's why
So what
you
else
need
you? Oh,
that.
go ahead.
That's why when when you spec your new engines out, guys and gals, get a deck gun.
Huh.
That way you ain't
Right.
even got to hold a hose line on it. So, well, what I didn't get a chance to read the whole entire article that you sent me about that fire in Charlotte. Um, you want to touch base on that a little bit?
Sure. So let's go there, shall we? Um, as we all know, I think it was May 10th. Is that right, Jay? Do you remember?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
May 10th, there was a 5 alarm fire in Jesus Christ. in 5 alarm fire in uptown Charlotte. It was a fire, an apartment complex that was under construction. It was currently under construction that caught fire. And what they determined was the fire initiated from a spray foam trailer, and there was all kind of like combustibles laying around it, stacks of lumber and whatnot that quickly caught fire and then spread to the structure. Well, like I said, it was a 5 alarm. It was probably one of the biggest fires Charlotte Fire Department has ever seen. And I want to go ahead right now and give props to the people, to the firefighters in Charlotte, because where I used to live, I know some of them. I've worked mutual aid with some of them, and there were some scary situations there where a couple of people, there was about 3 or 4 maydays throughout the whole situation. So there was even a situation where there was a crane operator that was trapped. I don't know how high off the ground it was, but it was in the middle, like literally in the middle of the fire. And the crane operator couldn't get out. The battalion chief came up to the people and said, "This is 100%. This is 100% volunteer. I'm not asking anybody to go, because this could very possibly be a suicide mission if you go." Is basically what he told him. And of course, about 5 or 6 of them raised their hand and ran up and got the guy down. Which, like I said, I give him props. I know it's kind of soon after the event, but I just wanted to kind of go ahead and cover it. But Jay, while I'm thinking, what's your take on it right now?
Uh, I'm with you. Major shout out to those guys that went up that crane and got that crane operator down. Um, you were telling me that when they got him down and was checking him over, the bottoms of his work boots had melted off of his feet,
Right.
and I mean that man was, as Yosemite Sam used to say, he's burning his biscuits. Um, and, major props go to those guys that put it all on the line to go up there and get that guy. That's what it's all about. Risk a little, save a little. Risk a lot, save a lot. If you save one life, that's saving a lot right there.
Exactly. So the I lost my train of thought. Pick it up for a minute, Jay. Let me.
Now, if you're not, I'm sure 90% of the listeners are familiar with what happened in Charlotte, but just in case, um, it went 5 alarms. It was in the South Park area of Charlotte. It was in a building that was under construction. Uh, and they were using the spray foam insulation, which to me don't look like foam. It looks more like shredded up newspaper with some kind of like sticky coating on it to me.
Glue in it, yeah.
Yeah, and it from what I understand, the fire started from the trailer that was spraying the foam insulation, and unfortunately, um, 2 people did perish in that fire, and our thoughts and prayers goes out to their families. Um, and there were maydays called during that fire, but uh, the maydays were taken care of, and all our brothers and sisters in Charlotte Fire Department went home.
Yeah, I think there might have been a couple of injuries on the firefighter side, but nothing serious.
Yeah, I haven't heard to the extent of what they were, but
So, oh, go ahead.
like you said, it was minor.
So Jay, if we sit back and we look at the Charleston 9, the Sofa Superstore fire, we
Mm-hmm.
did the audio podcast on that, and then we did the podcast on the Station nightclub.
Right.
What is the common thing between those two fires that took place?
Fire code violations that were not rectified, and in one of them there was even new construction done to the facility that had no kind of building permits or inspections previous to or after the construction was done.
And loss of life on both
Hmm.
incidents.
I was getting
Now
there.
our next podcast, the I think it's the next one coming up. It's the Coconut Grove in the 40s, which same situation. Building codes. I mean, fire fire codes. Building wasn't up to fire code, and um, people lost their lives.
Yeah.
However, with this Charlotte fire, we know we have modern fire codes now. This is a brand new construction, and I'm just going to put blame where it is. The contractor ignored the fire codes. It says here that the contractor failed to alert the fire marshal's office about its construction in progress, as Mecklenburg County requires, the fire department said in a news release. Mecklenburg County requires builders to contact the fire marshals before constructing buildings over 40 feet so that the fire inspection can be performed. It also said that no standpipe was in place, and buildings have to have at least in that area have to have at least one standpipe in place during construction,
Hmm.
which um, for those of you who don't know, a standpipe is basically a vertical pipe that goes from the ground all the way to the top. It's got outlets at every floor, so firefighters can go up and make a connection and battle fires more quickly. That way, they don't have to drag water up with them.
Yeah. Now, how many stories was this building? I can't remember.
I don't remember how many it was.
But
I know that. Oh, go ahead.
it was definitely over than more than 4 floors. So it's not like that the building contractor was, you know, going behind Charlotte Fire Department's back. It was, it was plain as day. It was his responsibility to contact the fire department to come and inspect it, and he never did.
It was flat out negligence,
Exactly.
and two people are dead because of it now.
Yeah.
And the fire was actually on May 18th. Um, the firefighters and the crane operator rescued 15 people as well. And it said the blaze shot a smoke plume into the air so big that it could be seen for miles, and embers blew so far that it ignited spot fires all over downtown. So
Yeah.
not only were they fighting that major blaze, they were having to contend with spot fires in other locations as well.
Yeah. Well, I know we were listening to the radio traffic for it, and they had from the spot fires, the roof of the building, I believe it was on the other side of the block, caught fire, and they had another whole total structure fire uh, somewhere within the vicinity also. Now I'm not familiar with downtown Charlotte, so I really couldn't tell you where or it was or anything. Um, but they did have another working structure fire during the big one.
Yeah.
So
And another thing I saw, and I'm not 100% sure the specifics, but the code said that the certain, like from the ground floor up to the certain level, had to be, I think it was concrete and, um, concrete and maybe rebar up to a certain level, and then from there up, it could be like a normal wood construction at the top, because
Right.
thinking the concrete would stop the spread up that high.
Yeah. Um, I don't know uh, which direction they're going to go with this. I'm sure there's probably going to be lawsuits over this,
Oh, somebody's getting sued, that's for sure.
and depending on how the uh, attorneys for the prosecution sees it, it could be manslaughter. It could be, I think it'd be involuntary manslaughter, and then they could go as far as first degree murder. I mean, the contractor is ended up to here, boys and girls,
Oh yeah.
and and just taking that extra few minutes, could have, you know, this might not even happen. Now, we're not telling you anything that has not already been um,
Published
published.
in the newspapers.
Exactly. In
I'm
fact,
I'm just right now pulling my information from the Charlotte Observer, so that's where the article came from. I was just paraphrasing out of the article.
right. Um, so we're not sitting here assuming anything. We're just telling you uh, facts based on what has been read from the Charlotte Observer. So, um, but it was on. They had it live on YouTube when it was burning, and we're listening to the radio traffic on Scanner Radio, and I'm glad I was not incident commander on that one.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, I read somewhere, and I'll be honest with you, I don't remember where it was, that it was either a battalion chief or the actual chief of Charlotte Fire Department said that that incident is a once in a lifetime incident that it rarely happens to anybody, and let alone everybody on their career.
Yeah. Well, that just goes to show you, um, some departments think that, oh, it'll never happen to us. Well, guess what? It can.
And it did.
And, you've heard me say it umpteen thousand times. It's not a matter of if, it's
But
a
when.
matter of when. So, but one thing that kind of popped into my head uh, when Philip come on with his comments, guys and gals, whenever you're on a wreck scene and you're having to call, uh, for a tow truck to help with the extrication, listen to what the tow truck driver is telling you. He knows
Oh,
his truck.
exactly.
He knows, balance and counterbalance. He's on the ball on that. So
Yeah,
listen.
they know their craft better than we
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
Firefighters are not tow drivers, and tow drivers are not firefighters. It's a cohesive team that works together.
yeah,
If you get a car wreck, then I'll do what the tow driver says to do, because they know how to get the car out of the ditch safely, and we don't. We
or
just know how to stabilize it.
yeah, or get the car off the top of the other car.
Right.
I mean, boys and girls, it's been in this business a while, but for you guys who are still quote unquote rookie status, you wouldn't believe some of the things that you're going to see if you stay in it long enough.
Exactly.
I mean, there's been some calls I've come home or back to the station and just sit there and thought, how in the hell did that happen?
Right.
So,
The another thing to keep in mind while we're on the soapbox about wrecks is, if you're listening and you're not a firefighter, or a first responder, slow down during going through a wreck scene, through an incident scene. Um, Take your time and pay attention to the tow truck driver because they're just as important as EMS or fire is, and everybody wants to go home to their family. Don't don't kill somebody in a scene because you're in a hurry. Just flying through an accident scene.
Including the tow truck driver. They want to go home to their families too, and you know, they go out to pick up a car on the side of the interstate, and they get out and they're working as safe as they can, but everyone flying by them at 90 mile an hour, you know, you know, they can, you know, unfortunately they get killed just like any other first responder does. And you know, it's there's these signs I see all over town here. It says, "See the lights, move to the right." They're there for a reason. It means you see a fire truck, a police officer, or ambulance, or tow truck coming up behind you. Get the hell out of the way.
Yeah, or slow down, move to the right, whatever. Just don't stop in the middle of the road when emergency vehicles behind you. Don't freak out and stop in the middle of the road. That's the most frustrating thing for me.
I've had that. I've had that happen when I was living on the coast. Um, there were times where I've actually seen some of the fire departments over on the islands actually had to come out of the station, make a right-hand turn, go down, turn around, and come back up because they couldn't make a left-hand turn because everybody was oblivious to the fact of the red lights and the siren. They were. It's almost like when they get to the bridge, they pull over, open up their skull, take their brain out, put it in a bucket, and leave it there until it's time to go home. And I mean, you know, that was one thing that frustrated me the most was nobody would get out of the way. But yet, if you were responding to one of their loved ones,
you better get there fast.
They'd want to know what took so long.
Quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, we used to get well, I pay your salary. You know, well, that's good. I could use a raise.
Right.
But you know, it's not a hard concept, and I mean, you know, I can understand to a point someone going into the shock, for lack of better words, and getting scared and freezing up.
Right.
I can understand that to a point because you know good as I do.
Especially with older generations.
Yeah, and I'm not. We're not picking on the older generations either. So don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm getting there. Believe me, I'm getting there. What's Philip saying?
They said most of the time, if we're there with fire and EMS, it's normally fatal, but there is chances of a person being alive.
Mm-hmm. But you know, I've seen them. Prime example, 4th of July weekend. We were going to a marsh fire. Started by fireworks. And lo and behold, what happens? Someone literally freezes up, slams on brakes right in front of me. These fire apparatus is not your mama's Oldsmobile.
No.
They don't stop on a dime.
They don't stop on a $10 bill either.
No. And I mean, I reacted quickly. I put on brakes and everything. And if it hadn't been for the fact that the turning lane was empty, that I could juke over and get out of his way, I'd have creamed him. And I wasn't breaking the speed limit.
Well, I agree with that. And sadly, from personal experience, I can tell you sometimes it's just not enough.
I know. I mean, everyone used to pick on me because the minute I rolled out, before I even took my foot off the brake to roll out onto the pad at the station, my siren was going, and usually my foot was, tapping the air horn button on the floor. Just trying, just trying to clear away so
Clear
I
the
can,
intersection. Yeah.
yeah. And everyone used to pick on me about that, and you know, knock on something hard. I never had anyone hit me in the fire truck. Come close, but
Right.
it's they just wasn't paying attention.
Oh,
And
exactly.
you get the teenagers with the boom boom music, coming down. You can hear them 2 miles before you see them. Ain't no way you're going to hear any kind of emergency apparatus coming up behind you with that crap going.
Not only that, but the construction of newer cars now, they're so soundproof. Even with no music on, it's hard to still, if the windows are up and the air conditioner on, it's still hard to hear sirens coming.
I think that's one of the reasons why they moved from mounting the air horns from the roof of the cab down into the bumper, so
Yeah.
it's closer to you.
And they've also got a thing called a rumbler now, or a howler rather,
Yeah,
that it basically vibrates and makes a howling noise.
yeah, that is the weirdest sounding thing. I
But
never,
it works.
yeah, I'll never forget the first time I ever heard it. We were in Gettysburg
Right.
at the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial, and it's about 2 o'clock in the morning, and something come by the hotel that we were staying at
Yeah.
with one of them sirens, and it woke me up. And Buddy, my oldest boy, he raised up and looked at me. I said, "Buddy," I said, "do me a favor, look out the window and see if the aliens have landed." Because that's what it sounded like. And I didn't know what it was there for a minute. But, we laugh about that. Think about back in the day when everything had the old mechanical wind up sirens.
Or just
Imagine,
the bell. Or
yeah,
just the bell. Ding, 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 ding.
imagine somebody hearing an electric siren for the first time after
Yeah.
years of that. I bet that was kind of like, you know, kind of, what was that? But, well, Chris, you got anything else tonight, buddy?
Not that I can think of. How about you? How about you?
Uh, just, again, we want to send our uh, condolences, our, thoughts and prayers out to the people that died in the fire in Charlotte. And what's Philip got?
Says I hate it when I'm riding the shoulder on the interstate, trying to get to the wreck, and people just pull out there because they don't want to sit in traffic. Basically, they pull out in the emergency lane and sit there so that they don't have to stay in traffic.
Now,
How
That-
rude!
yeah, it's definitely, as Pop used to say, that's uncouth.
All right.
So, for those who never had the opportunity to meet my pop, he was something else.
Oh, he was something. All right.
Yeah. Um, but that's pretty much all I got for tonight. So,
All right. Well, it looks like we have 4 listeners. I think 4 to 5 total. 1 on each platform. So 2 from Facebook, 1 from YouTube, and 1 from Twitch. Believe it or not.
really,
So we have all our bases covered tonight. Had
Who-
4
who-
consistent listeners tonight, and we thank each and every one of you for listening tonight and watching tonight. And I hope you stay tuned and come back and watch the show again.
yeah, and we got we have a normal monthly podcast.
Oh yeah, go over
The-
the schedule real quick because that's your department.
It's going the new shows will be dropping on Sunday evenings. We got basically what we started doing is taking major fires that led to unfortunate loss of life, and also prompted changes in fire code, uh, updated it, created it, whatever you want to, whichever way it flows at that time. Um, we've, like Chris said, we've done the Sofa Superstore. We did the Station Nightclub, so you can go back and watch those episodes. Um, we've got our next one is Coconut Grove, and we the Hackensack, New Jersey Ford fire or Ford dealership fire is coming up. I want to send out props to my oldest son. He helped a lot on that because there's a lot of information on that one. Um, but basically, we use it as a learning tool, um, so you can, so you'll know, you know, where these changes in fire code come from, uh, and what happened uh,
All right.
to, prompt it.
But we try
Uh,
to do different content as well. As far as that, that's actually an audio podcast that we do on. You can find it on Stitcher, Pandora, all the major podcast platforms that we're on. It's basically just Hose Jockeys Unite is the. If you look up Hose Jockeys Unite, that's the audio podcast that we do,
mm,
and it's on all the major podcast platforms that are out there. Um,
so
Apple, Apple Podcasts, things like that.
yeah, this
But we try
show.
to do other content as well, not just the case studies, but we also do like an EMS related one about once a quarter, um, and just different things that come to mind. But we've had pretty good success with the case studies,
Yeah.
even though to me those are a little bit hard to do because it's a lot of reading and a lot of just really in depth like statistical stuff that's hard to kind of regurgitate.
Now, if anybody who is listening um, has an idea for a show for us to research and do, feel free to leave it in the comments.
Yeah, or you can email your questions and comments to firefighter274 at outlook.com. And we take shows. I can't talk. I'm sorry. We take ideas for show topics, things you want to have us cover in shows. We also have an Ask the Firefighter segment on the audio podcast where it's kind of geared towards the bystander, the civilian who doesn't know much about the fire service. They can send a question to us and we'll answer it on the show.
Yeah, and we've had some
You know,
really good
something like
questions.
why is a fire truck red or whatever. You know, something like people who are not in the business wouldn't really know the answer to. So we would try to answer that, you know, the question to the best of our abilities.
Yeah.
And we also do a pro tip that's geared towards basically new firefighters or new EMS people, that things that could help them further their career.
Yeah. Well, not only that, it also kind of a refresher for you know, some of the veteran firefighters also. Uh, we've even done a show on not playing Highway to Hell on the radio in the background when checking en route to a structure fire, didn't we, Philip? Mm-hmm.
Um, our last show was actually weather related because we're getting ready to come to the start of hurricane season. So our last show was basically about how civilians and emergency services alike should prepare for weather disasters.
Yeah. And with weather disasters, it's just like everything else, folks. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Right.
Um, I mean, right here in my hometown, what, 2, maybe 3 years ago now, we had a tornado come up and touch down and go from uh, here in Burlington all the way to right outside of Hall River, which is about 12, 13 miles maybe. We had the year before that on Easter, In fact, Philip, we were spending the weekend with you that weekend. It was Easter weekend, and we had a tornado touchdown not too far from your house and tear up a bunch of stuff. So it's like, um, the county that we live in is like becoming the um, tornado alley for the state of North Carolina.
Oh, it really is. In severe weather. So he said, "Yep." Philip says, "Yep." So, anything else for us tonight, Jay?
Um, I'll just give everybody a quick backstory on what I was joking with Philip about now. Philip's my cousin, and he's one of my best friends, and he's on the fire department as well at the time. And we got dispatched to structure fire in the wee hours of the morning, and I'm almost at the scene because it's right around the corner from my house.
Were you
And
POV or in an engine?
I was POV at the time,
Okay.
and I hear him checking her out with the utility truck, and he had the radio on in the background. I guess he didn't realize it was as loud as it was, but "Highway to Hell" by AC/DC was playing in the background, and it could have been no more perfectly timed, but to hear that while he was checking her out was kind of funny. But
I'm
yeah,
sure dispatch had some interesting comments after the fact too.
believe it or not, he got away clean with that one. Um, I'm the one that got the no-do. Um, I the One of the first calls that I went on when we moved back up here, um, they just made me safety officer, and I was the first one on scene, and it was a vehicle down an embankment, and she had been there for uh, 24 hours, and nobody seen her. That's how thick the woods were around her and everything. And I was just used to, from living down on the coast, requesting a helo. And what do you say?
He said they came back and asked last unit checking her out.
Yeah, I remember that. But basically, long story short, I asked for a helo, and I did. I never got the helicopter, but there wasn't one available at the time. But the fire chief got a phone call from the head of communications and said said to tell me from now on refer to it as a helicopter. It is not a chopper. It is not a helo. It is a helicopter.
Well, that's kind of funny too because the other night at work, it was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We got a call, and I'm halfway asleep, and we're sitting there. Actually, it was a standby, not a call. We had to go to a different district for standby, so we're sitting there, and I'm getting ready to leave to go back to our base, and I called up my unit number, and I was like, you know, it's 17. I'm just throwing numbers out here. 1774, and I was actually on 1784, whatever. I don't even remember, but I'm just throwing numbers out there. I was like, 1774, returning to county, um, back in, back in service, whatever. And and my partner's like, we're on 84. So I pick up the mic again, and I said, Central, 1784. My bad. And she just looked at me. She looked at me. She's like, don't ever do that again. And about the time I said it, I'm like, I realized what I did. I'm like, whoops.
The, well, when we first moved back up here, for one of the first 4 or 5 fires that I went to, I'd key the mic up and I'd be like engine 50 to Dare Central.
Yeah.
That was communications back on the coast. And the driver looked at me and said, "It's CCOM." Oops. Okay, engine 50 to CCOM.
Yeah, South
But,
Carolina, they had CCOM.
yeah.
So it's like, that's the biggest thing about working for different places or whatever
But
that I had.
some of the funniest things that's ever taken place has been on the fire scene.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And I could sit here all night and tell you stories, but I'm sure everyone out there wants to go to bed. So
Right. Well, Joe, we're going to wrap it up. And again, thank you for everybody, all four of you who are listening tonight. And again, come back and watch the show again. Like I said, we do it once a month, and we will see you next time.
take care, everybody. Be safe.
Take care.
Remember, someone at home loves you. Only God knows why.